All right, let's get right into one of the most bizarre and enduring mysteries out there. It's the story of a man who seemed to step right out of another dimension. But what if the real story, the truth behind the legend, is even weirder than you can imagine? Just picture this for a second. You're working customs, it's a normal day, and a traveler hands you a passport that looks perfectly legit, but it's from a country you know doesn't exist. That's exactly the puzzle that kicked off this whole incredible affair. So, the legend takes us to Tokyo's Haneda Airport. It's busy, it's hot, everything is business as usual. But on this seemingly ordinary day, a very mysterious traveler is about to walk in and create a puzzle that would baffle officials for decades. So, who was this guy? Well, at first glance, he seemed completely normal. A well-dressed man, Caucasian, with a beard, looked like any other businessman. And he was smart, too. Spoke fluent French, Japanese, and a few other languages. Nothing seemed off at all. But then he hands over his passport, and the immigration officer just stops. The passport itself looked real. It had the right stamps, the right feel, but it listed his home country as Taured. Taured? Nobody had ever heard of it. The man, though, he insisted it was real, claiming it had 1,000 years of history. So the officials pull out a world map, right? They ask him to point out his country. He confidently points to the little spot right between France and Spain. But the map didn't say Taured, it said Andorra. And he got genuinely angry, insisting that their map was wrong and that his country, Taured, should be there. At this point, the Japanese officials are deeply suspicious. They're thinking, okay, this has to be some kind of spy or a high-level criminal. So they decide to hold him for investigation. And this, right here, is where the story goes from just being strange to being completely impossible. They put him in a hotel room, way up on a high floor. They posted 2 guards right outside his door. I mean, there was literally only one way in and one way out. What happened next is the reason the story became an absolute legend, because it seems to defy all logic. The next morning, the guards unlock the door and the room is empty. The man was gone. And not just him. His weird passport, his driver's license, his briefcase, every single piece of evidence that he ever existed had vanished right along with him. I mean, how do you explain that? The story just exploded. People started asking, was he a time traveler? Did he accidentally slip through a portal into our universe, only to be yanked back to his own world of Taured? It's the kind of stuff sci-fi dreams are made of. It is a fantastic, mind-bending story, right? It has all the perfect ingredients for a great mystery. But what happens when we start to pull back the curtain on this myth and actually search for the truth? And this is where it gets really interesting, because sometimes the real story can be even more fascinating than the legend. This isn't really a story about parallel universes, but it is a story about how our own world creates them. The incredible tale of the man from Taured is, you guessed it, a classic urban legend. But like all the best legends, it's not totally made up. It's actually based on a real person. Not a traveler from another dimension, but a very, very slick con man. So let's meet the real guy. His name was John Allen Kuchar Zegrus. And his story isn't one of science fiction. It's a tale of international fraud, so bold and so bizarre that it was actually brought up in the British Parliament. See, the real events didn't even happen in 1954. They happened in 1959, and we have records of it. Zegrus was caught, his case was documented, and his fate wasn't decided by a dimensional rift, but by a Japanese court. The story first seems to hit the public record in 1960. A British MP named Robert Matthew actually used Zegrus's case to make a point about how easy it was to fool border control. He specifically mentioned a passport for the independent sovereign state of Taured. Now, this is the really clever part. His fake country, Taured, and its capital, Tamanrasset, weren't just random words. Taured sounds a lot like the Tuareg people of North Africa, and Tamanrasset is a real city in Algeria. He chose names that sounded just plausible enough to make an official hesitate. So what happened to Zegrus? Did he vanish? Nope. He went to trial. He was found guilty of illegal entry and for writing bad checks, and he was sentenced to 1 year in prison. Just a common criminal, not a cosmic traveler. So the big question is, how on earth did a story about a con man going to jail for a year turn into one of the most famous paranormal mysteries of all time? Well, that journey from a simple lie to an epic legend is a story in itself. It's a tale as old as time. You start with a real weird event. Over the years, people retell it, and the details get fuzzy. The year changes from 59 to 54. Taured becomes the catchier Taured. And then someone adds the magic ingredient, the impossible disappearance. Before you know it, the truth is totally gone.
Really, the story of the man from Taured is a perfect lesson for our times. It shows how easily a simple fact can be twisted and embellished until it becomes an exciting, viral mystery, especially online, where a good story travels way faster than the truth.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How many other legends that we just accept as true started out as some simple, forgotten fact? And what does it say about us that we often prefer the impossible story over the simple truth?